After watching the tape from the game, what I had mentioned afterwards is what really happened was they were just more physical up front than our guys, and we had practiced well. Defensively, they played with more effort than we did up front on offense, and so we weren't very effective running the football, and which forced us in a situation where we became somewhat predictable throwing the ball, and then at that point we didn't throw it very good. So it was good that our defense was competing and played very well. They made a nice change there in the fourth quarter when they brought the other quarterback in and tightened down the formation and ran the ball effectively and were able to throw some misdirection passing. And they had the long drive that was 5 or 6 minutes and scored, and then we went out and were on the field for about 40 seconds and punted back, and they scored again real quick, and they had gotten us tired at that point. So it was good to get out of there with a win. We'll need to play much better this week in order to beat Iowa State. Iowa State's a good football team. Everybody knows that. I think what's interesting about them is they don't do anything flashy in most people's opinion to get a lot of attention, but they're giving up 17 points a game, 3.5 yards a rush. They've only given up 9 sacks. They just don't make many mistakes. They play good football. They don't turn it over. They're sound, and you can look from this season. You can even go back into next season where they've competed against good offenses and played much better than what people would have expected them to. So I think we're to the point now that everybody realizes that it doesn't happen by accident, that Iowa State's a good football team and worthy of the consideration that they're getting. So we'll need to practice very well and play well in order to have a chance to win this game.
How much does it affect the game planning when you have the talent that they do there in the middle with their linebackers?
Yeah, they may have the best crew inside and play as well together as anybody we have in our league. They're experienced. Most of their guys are juniors and seniors. They've played a number of games, and the experience and maturity is so important. And they've got guys that have played a lot of games, and the results, it shows.
The whole revenge card, does it play at all, or is it overrated, or does it almost have to play in judging what happened?
I don't think that it goes unnoticed. I think that most of that's overrated, but I can't imagine that some players might not reflect back on that last year. But they have to go out and play a sound football game. They got to be in the right spot and adjust based on whatever position they're in, offense or defense. And if you get caught up in that and you play out of control, then you won't play very good in our opinion.
Mike, what do you remember about that day? I mean, obviously, it's a horrific weekend that was. Waking up that day, did you kind of feel like something was off that morning in Ames before the game?
I don't know if you ever really know. I know everybody felt terrible, and it was a downer, and we could talk and had meetings and told the team that they decided to play the game and we needed to move forward. But it's not like you walk out of that banquet room at the hotel and feel better about it. Nobody did. And the tragedy I remember much more than I do the game, just because that's going to last forever. And that score was forever, but our team ended up on a very good note that at the end of the season last year. So just the tragedy and what we went through, and certainly the families, is something that none of us will ever forget.
You've given a lot of speeches to teams and had a lot of talks with teams. How tough was that one when I'm assuming you were the one that delivered the news?
Yes, and in most cases, I'm more comfortable with just telling them the truth, and that I understand that everybody knows what we're dealing with. Why things like that happen, we'll never know, but they have to move forward in a short time frame and do the best we can. And it was just very quiet. It was quiet for the rest of the day. It's quiet at the hotel. It's quiet in meetings. Quiet on the bus ride. It was somewhat quiet in the locker room before the game.
Coach, talk about the impact of your special teams last week, because they really limited kickoff returns, punt returns, and you got a good punt return from Charlie Moore.
Quinn did a really nice job for us in the conditions we had with the surface being wet and the rain. We were able to play field position, and he had a punt of I think 70, and the other one was 72 or 3. So really had 2 punts of over 70 yards and changed the field. And then he made a long field goal. He missed one right before the half, I think it was 52 or 53. And then he was able to kick off well, and then Charlie was able to come up with a punt return for us. So we were good on special teams. One play that certainly shouldn't go unnoticed is Nigel made a really nice play on a fake field goal. Tackled a guy in the backfield. If he doesn't dive and make that tackle, he's going to get 6 or 8 yards, and it was only about 4th and 4, I think, 4th and 5. He made a really nice play on that fake field goal on special teams.
Mike, going back to Iowa State, Paul Rhoads, I mean, there's some places in America where the resources are limited. What the job he's done, is that you think that's gone underappreciated? He's brought some consistency there.
Well, I don't think it's gone unappreciated with us in our profession. I think maybe from a national perspective, people don't look into it and see the job that he's done there. And his players compete and they play hard. I think one thing that we should remember is that, and we tell our team this, is that your talent level, no matter what it is, you have in control the ability to play as hard as you want. And his guys play hard. And that's all you can ask. There's certain teams that are really good and don't play very hard. And there's certain teams that may not be as talented in certain areas, but they play really hard. And what he's done in the last couple of years is gotten better players, and they're still playing hard.
Can you talk specifically about their linebackers and what it allows them to do defensively?
Well, in our opinion, they're not real complex, and they play sound. They understand gap control. They keep things in front of them. They limit the big plays. They force the offense to have 7, 9, 10, 11 play drives, and it's almost as if they say you're going to eventually mess something up, and we're going to keep everything in front of you. They'll pick their spots, and now they'll walk their Sam and their Will out, and they'll bring them. They'll fire their 2 inside backers some, but for the most part, in my opinion, they're going to play sound defense and not give you big plays.
The linebackers are a big part of that.
No question. Yeah, they're deceivingly fast, and I think it's 52. I don't know for sure what his number is. He's got good feet. He has really quick feet, which is an advantage for a linebacker to be able to avoid trash. And they take good angles. They spot drop well in the passing game. They pick up crossers underneath. They just don't give you a lot of easy plays.
What did they do last year that was so effective in stopping the run game that night? Because it looked like they ran a little bit of a stack where they kind of hid their linebackers, made it very difficult to get any second-level blocks.
Yeah, they played 2s and 4s, head up on the guards, head up on the tackles, and put their linebackers behind them, which is a defense that's advantageous for stopping the run. We didn't play catch. We didn't throw the ball effectively, and Weeden didn't set his feet as much as he would have wanted to. And there was times they played man on us, and we didn't throw the ball and catch it like we needed to. You look back on games like that, you'll see 3 or 4 key plays that if you're able to execute what we think is within the realm for us to execute, you're gonna play much differently, and the outcome will be different. But obviously that's why they play the game.
How is Wes coming along?
He's just day to day. He's out there with us and just day to day.
A little bit of an off-the-wall question. I asked you last night about that Lou Holtz comment on Saturday where he said, hey, coaches now deal with their own team as a different team every week when they take them out to play. I was thinking, I mean, Vince Lombardi, I know, is a guy that you kind of looked up to in the coaching profession. Even your own head coach, Pat Jones, that you're tied with right now. How do you think those guys would have dealt with today's? I mean, they didn't have to deal with Twitter, Facebook. I mean, how would those coaches have dealt with this kind of distracting type atmosphere?
Well, I think we have to be flexible and adjust whether we like it or not. I'm certainly not as what would be as disciplined a background as what I read about Vince Lombardi or certainly even Coach Jones. But I'm also not the most laid-back guy when it comes to the structure and discipline. But society's changing. We have set rules. We have set rules and certain parameters that we think are important that our players stay within in a lot of different areas. But there's just, in our opinion, in my opinion, there has to be more flexibility to a certain point and understand that things change. I mean, you can look at examples out there in every walk of life. You can go back 10 years ago, and when Mike Leach and them started throwing the ball that way, nobody ever thought that would happen. And now everybody's doing it. I shouldn't say everybody. A large number of people are doing it. And now they've even changed it and doing it differently. So things change. People change. Young people are different than they ever have been, but they still want discipline and structure. So as long as you have that, for the most part, you'll be fine.
Speaking of Coach Jones, now that you're a win away from that wins record, have you had a chance to reflect on what it'll mean to you whenever you do get it?
Well, I'm happy for our team. I'm happy for the organization, the school. You know, I visited with Coach the other day about that, and you know, you stay here long enough, eventually you should break the record. And but what that means is our team's having success, and I don't think a lot about it. I really don't. My first concern is making sure that our team's functioning the way they should, their attitude's good, that the people that come to watch them play are proud of the effort and the way they perform. And they continue to get better each day in each game. And that's really my concern. Anything else that comes with it, I think we share as a staff and as a team, and I really feel that way. And I talked to Coach about that, and I think he understands the way I feel. And it's almost like that I'm just kind of carrying on what he started. You know, he went through a tough time here when we got put on probation, but, you know, really I can just kind of carry on what he started in the mid to late 80s.
Several of your players out there did not know about it, didn't know you tied Jones on Saturday, didn't know you could break him this weekend, and then weren't surprised they didn't know.
Well, they would know what the new video game
Guy that would
was.
say that.
Whatever new video game was out, they would know. And if some kind of new instant messaging was out or some faster way to text, they would know. But things that fall in that other category are just not an interest of the guys today. Those things aren't important to them.
But they said they weren't surprised because they weren't surprised you didn't say anything about it. They said that's not the kind of thing that he would tell us.
Right. I honestly, I usually forget about it about every couple days myself. I'm just, we're just trying to find a way to move the ball and score points and stop people, and got other things going on. But I'm happy for the team, I'm happy for the school, and I'm happy that we're having success.
Mike, when you take a look at Wes this week, when you're evaluating him, whether he's going to get the majority of the reps and possibly be the starter on Saturday, what are you exactly looking for, and when are you going to make that decision in your mind that he's the guy?
We have enough reps in practice for both guys, and then we'll work a third team guy in there. So the reps won't become an issue. And I think the best way to express that is that we want to make a decision on Thursday after practice if he's in a position to be successful, and we have to decide who gives us the best chance to score points and win the football game, and then we'll go with it.
Coach Luncheon mentioned that he was more satisfied with his offense's performance coming out of the loss to Texas than he was out of the win in Lawrence. Do you agree with that assessment?
Yeah, and we weren't very physical up front, and it wasn't all their fault. All their fault, but that's where it starts. Is we just didn't we didn't physically block anybody and give our guys a place to run the ball, and then it snowballs into no play pass, ball's wet, slippery, and it just looked bad. And you tie all those things together, and it's not a good day on offense, and it starts up front. And I'm guessing that's what he's making comments on.
Are you more concerned, Mike, over whether or not Wes will be ready for Saturday, or more concerned about who either he or JW are going to be able to throw to, given all your injuries at receiver?
Well, we're concerned about making sure we have guys out there that give us a threat to make big plays. The health of Wes is progressing every day, and so that's one area that we can't control. He could be considerably better Wednesday than he is today. He could be slowed a little bit. It's just hard to tell. But we'll have a group of guys that'll be out there. If they're freshmen and they're young guys, they have to find a way to make plays. That's just the way it is.
Another off-the-wall question here. When you hear the name Bob Fenimore and what he's done for this school, the athletic program, long before the people here have been around. When you think about what his legacy is, what do you think of?
Well, you go back, a long time ago to where guys played multiple positions and very seldom come off the field. But even as old as I am, he's so far back for me that I don't remember anything, and there's not really many clips of it. But when I got here, you see his name. You see his name in the media guide, and his name's on the wall. And he's been just a real traditional cowboy for us, and he's been around for he was around for a long time, and in his own way supported us. And he was, I believe, two-time 44-45, I think, All-American, and was the guy that played in the Cotton Bowl, made all the plays, and I believe a first-round pick. Is that correct? The first pick, right? Right. So I know quite a bit about him, just obviously not as much as what some people may, because that was a long time ago, 20 years before I was born, or 30 years.
No, I'm sure as someone you probably would wish if you could go back in time, you'd like to see him play. Is that correct, or along those lines?
Yeah, I see some clips, but you don't see very much. They just didn't have, obviously didn't have the ability to video and store it like they do now. But the guy obviously was a great player.
Pitt was filming, I think, that.
Yeah.
Was a
Well, Pitt
video
was
guy there.
he was a student assistant.
Is it too early to know about Jeremy Smith, and do you expect him to be at full strength?
Yeah, we expect all of our guys to be out there. Whether they will or not, we're not sure. But we'll just have to see how it works out throughout the week.
How big of a loss was that, though, not to have the dual running back threat in that game?
Anytime you have a good player that's not out there, it's going to affect your team. I mean, that's just the way it is. You got to find a way to overcome it, but we all know that you take good player off the field, and you're not as good as what you were when he was on the field. You take two of them off, and you're not as good as what you were when those two were on the field. And one of the strengths that we've had is for those guys to both carry the ball, keep each other fresh, and at times use both of them. And we weren't able to do that on Saturday.
You were one of the 3 teams in the conference where you control your own destiny. If they went out, you got the title without any help of tiebreakers at all. Is that something you mentioned already to your team, or is it too early in the conference season? I know you talk about the parity of the league and how you guys are already back in control of that. Did you mention that to the team yet, or?
Way too early. Yeah, I mean, I was just told this morning that the next 7 teams we're playing are all ranked in the top 25. And we just got through playing Texas. At one time, whatever they were ranked, we played Arizona. We played a Lafayette team that won in the bowl game last year. So, I mean, we're going to have challenge each week. We got our hands full just getting ready for the next one.
Did you have a chance to watch Brandon Weeden yesterday?
I didn't. I heard that he played very well, but I don't get to watch any NFL unless it's late at night. Sometimes there's a game on after 10 o'clock, and I'll turn it on. And I didn't even see any of his highlights. And I don't know why, because I saw all the other highlights, but for whatever reason I must have fallen asleep. But I was happy that he continued to play well. I know that he's thrown, I think, 10 interceptions, but in the parts that I've seen him play, I watched him against the Ravens, whenever that was, because I think we had an open date or something. I don't remember for sure, but I watched him play, and I thought he played fantastic for the amount of pressure that he's getting. And as they, just from an outsider looking in, as they get and improved where they can protect him a little better, I think that he's really going to make some plays, because the games I saw him, he was under pretty good heat now.
And he had a couple of connections to Josh Cooper. Does that make you nostalgic at all, or is that just more of a female thing?
Well, I'm really happy. Yeah, it makes me sad they're not here, one. I'm really happy for both of them, and really Josh. You know, Josh is just a little guy from Mustang that not very many people, well, nobody really recruited him. And he came in here and had a couple issues, and we disciplined. You know, I was just telling, it's funny you brought it up, I was just telling my wife last night that his first week here, he was down here after curfew on the strip, and we disciplined him, put him on the Stairmaster for a week or so out there in practice, and really tried to get him to quit. And he wouldn't quit, and he came in my office and asked if he could get off the Stairmaster, and I said I really had forgotten you were over there. And I said, "So how long you been over there?" He said, "I think 5 or 6 days." I said, "Well, that's probably pretty good. You can get off now." But anyway, he's come a long way. It's a great story of a young man that just likes to play football. Had a lot of success here. I think he was the third all-time leader in receptions, I think, somewhere around that, and or second or third, or third or fourth. But anyway, just a guy that likes to play a game. He played hurt all the time and fought through it and was a great team player.
Mike, you mentioned blocking and running earlier. Did that lead to passing problems against Kansas? I mean, was that, you think, the biggest reason you had trouble throwing the ball to?
Before the first break, the problem we had was the conditions weren't good. We had a young quarterback, and at times you see quarterbacks make plays in bad conditions like that, and they're usually a veteran guy that's a really good thrower, and he's got a huge hand, and he can deal with conditions better. Those didn't favor who we were as an offense last Saturday. And then we didn't block anybody up front. We couldn't run the ball, so they just sat down on everything. And from that point on, we didn't throw the ball very good. That necessarily wasn't tied into the front. That was just tied into the passing game, quarterback and receivers. Some of the routes that we ran were poor, and some of the throws we made were poor.
Do you feel pretty confident that you can fix the problems you had last week?
Well, I know it's going to be 60 and sunny, so that'll be a good start. And again, they played under the same conditions, but that we can't control, and so supposedly the weather's supposed to be good, so that's a good start. And the one thing I keep going back to, John, is in order for our offense to have success, we have to be physical up front and allow running lanes. And then when we throw the ball effectively, it allows us to, when we run the ball effectively, it allows us to throw passes. We never got the running game off, and so we couldn't throw passes.
How frustrating were weather delays like that? I know it wasn't quite to the extent of the Tulsa game, but I mean, just having to go back in and just sit there and wait to come back out.
I don't think anybody likes them. You can't do anything about it. And I mentioned this after the game. I thought that delay worked to our advantage because we were able to clean up an error on defense where they had a nice scheme running the ball, and we didn't have an answer, and we went in there and we were able to clean that up and came back out for the next 2 quarters, and we were able to stop that running game. And those adjustments took place during that delay. We had coached considerably during the delay. I would have thought the delay was about 30 minutes. I was told afterwards it was an hour and 19 minutes. And it went really fast for us because we were coaching. Unlike Tulsa, we never started. So we were just sitting around for over 3 hours, or however long it was, 3 hours, and we didn't really have anything to do.
Did you have the same, the TV said you had peanut butter and jelly again, or maybe?
I didn't. They didn't give me one. So the one thing that I said in the post-game interview was that when we know that there's going to be strong storms, we should pack food and take it with us, because if you get into a long delay, those guys have to eat. But we didn't eat, and now they may have had energy bars. I'm not sure, but there wasn't anybody preparing food.
When situations like that happen, is there a concern about, is it specific calorie intake or eating too much, eating too little? What's the balance there? And I assume Rob Glass is in charge of that, or?
Yes, and it differs from coaches and players. The players can eat what they want, and the coaches eat what they want and shouldn't eat what they want. But these guys during this time of year can eat as much as they want. They burn so much out here and in the games that it's not a factor.
Not advocating shutting the wives out, but if you put the 2 and 2 together and realize the 2 weather delays came both times the wives were on the trip.
See, I'm smarter than that. I didn't bring that up. But you're right.
Well, the radio crew, we don't bring our wives, so.
You're welcome to.
No.
You're welcome to. All right, thanks.
What are you doing taking the wives to Tulsa and Lawrence?
They picked the wives' trip. No, they picked the trips. Yeah, I mean, anything that I don't have to make a decision on, so I can't get blamed, I let them do it. And it's based on different things. They try to time it up to where they can be gone longer, and that way they get to sit in the hotel and not do anything. So either way, I'm good with it, you know.